What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video. And in today's video, we are going to be continuing our ongoing series here on the channel as we take a look at each color element in the King of Fighters All-Star and give you guys the top 5 characters from each one of those elements for PVE content. And in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the yellow element. But before we get into all of that and more, if you guys are new here and you haven't already done so, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into today's video. Now, before we get into the list itself, I do want to go ahead and give you guys a couple of reminders and a disclaimer. Now, if you guys are new here to the channel, this is the 4th video in this series that we have been doing over the course of the past week. So if you guys want to see any of those other videos, links will be in the description. But quick disclaimer here, all of these lists and these picks are going to be according to my own personal opinions, observations, and experiences as someone who has played the game since day one. So keep that in mind. If you have a particular fighter that you would like to see featured on here, or you think should be featured on here, or even a full top 5 list of your own, you can leave that in the comments section down below, because again, these are all going to be according to my own personal observations. But with all of that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and get into the top 5. Coming in at number 5, we have King. King is a yellow balance type character that increases yellow element fighters' attack by 45% and their power charge rate by 20% with his leadership ability, and is basically going to be a designated Starlight toon. In general, King is still to this day a very good character and one of the better ones to come out of the 7 Deadly Sins collaboration. One of the things that has always held him back, however, is going to be the fact that he can explode his own Starlight, which is something that does take away from his overall performance in places where you would like to use him, such as Guild Raid Lunatic with Omega Rugal. However, with all of that being said, King has withstood the test of time as being a character that does feature that Starlight and several different avenues of using it, as well as being a character that features Petrify, which is a very underrated CC effect, and in general is just going to be a character that you would use for general PvE content and do a very good job at it. He's also going to have an extremely good 3PG finisher that is going to have a very long animation on it, which is nice for things such as Immortals, and he's also going to be one of the better overall characters that I've personally ever played with in things such as PVAI, thanks to the fact that his S1 is just absolutely ridiculous there. So overall, while not an absurdly broken character like some of the other ones we're about to talk about, King does deserve to be here at the top of the list and leads us off at number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have Boss Syndrome Chrysalid. Don't worry, Chrysalid fans, I am an enormous fan of this character, and him being at number 4 has nothing to do with his overall performance. It's just more of an indictment on how strong the yellow pool has become. But Boss Syndrome Chrysalid is a yellow balance type that increases boss fighters' attack by 60% and decreases their HP by 5%. In general, Boss Syndrome Chrysalid has a fantastic leadership ability, fantastic tags, and slots into a ton of different teams. His typing, really not anything to write home about, but when we talk about this character, the biggest thing to know about him is the fact that he is going to be an absolute dream for things such as Guild Raid, particularly against Omega Rugal, but he does have isolated use cases against Nightmare Geese. But with all of that being said, Boss Syndrome Chrysalid is going to have an excellent mixed dot kit using Starlight as well as Darkness. This is going to mean that this character is going to be quite unique and going to slot in and be very helpful in a lot of different PvE content. And in general, when it comes to just overall bossing and mobbing and so on and so forth, while he is a character that is mostly predicated upon grab skills, that isn't really anything that's ever held him back. In general, this is still going to be a character with an extremely high damage ceiling. However, that has begun to shrink just a little bit as the game has power crept itself, but Boss Syndrome Chrysalid is still an incredibly strong character in 2021. Coming in at number 3, we have SS Honoka. SS Honoka is going to be a yellow defensive type character with a leadership ability that increases all fighters' attack by 20% and their active skill damage by 30%. Typing wise, SS Honoka is useful for tier 56 of Reviving Hell's Dungeon, and when it comes to her overall leadership ability, it leaves a lot to be desired. But in general, Honoka isn't really trying to do anything too fancy. Now, the name of the game with SS Honoka is just damage, damage, damage. There really isn't a whole lot going on in her kit that is anything extremely creative. She actually has more of a meta kit than anything at this point, where she is going to boast hyper armor with an interrupt, she's going to have a dot, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be a character that is pretty basic at this point, but still does an extremely good job at what she's trying to accomplish. Now, she is going to be a burn-based unit, so keep that in mind. That means that this character is going to be in a very glutted pool. It isn't as if we are for options for burn-based characters, but SS Honoka, even though she is a defensive type, still does some of the highest damage in the game, even considering the fact that she does have as much competition as she does. So yes, there are going to be better options if you need a burn character. However, if you do have SS Honoka, you know just how powerful she can be, and she is still going to be a character that deserves her spot near the top of this list. Coming in at number 2, we have SS Kyo. SS Kyo is a yellow attack type with a leadership ability that increases special signature fighters' attack by 60% and decreases their HP by 5%. He's also going to boast some extremely good tags with an extremely good leadership ability and a typing that is relevant for high levels of Reviving Hell's Dungeon. You guys already know when it comes to SS Kyo, this is one of the best overall characters in the entire game, and up until the past couple of weeks was the best character in the game, but he has been usurped in a pretty big way by a couple of different characters at this point, but that's more of an indictment on how Netmarble has been doing business lately and less of an indictment on Kyo, because when it comes to Kyo, just because these other characters have released changes nothing about his performance. He is still going to be one of the best characters in all of the King of Fighters All-Star. He's still to this day one of my favorite possible characters to play. He's going to have an incredible effect on his S1 where he could almost have an infinite reset thanks to the fact that there is no cooldown on the reset on it, and he's also going to have an excellent mixed dot kit using both burn and starlight. So this character, while he isn't going to be the #1 character in the game anymore, his performance is still going to be incredible, and he is definitely one of the top 5 characters in all of King of Fighters All-Star. And coming in at number 1, we have Phantom Ruler Ignas. Phantom Ruler Ignas is going to be a yellow attack type fighter with a leadership ability to increase Nest fighters' attack by 60% and decrease their HP by 5%, and he's also going to boast some extremely flexible tags. So in general, this is going to be a character with an excellent typing for Reviving Hell's Dungeon, a wonderful leadership ability, and he's also going to slot into some teams extremely well. But when it comes to this character, one of the big things that people should realize about Phantom Ruler Ignas, and we've talked about this in the past, however, it has become more and more relevant as more people have now been able to unlock him and post footage of his performance. But this character, if you compare him side by side to a character like we just talked about in SS Kyo, you will find that his kit is extremely asimilar to his, meaning that they are going to be built largely the same. However, it feels like Phantom Ruler Ignas is basically a boosted up and buffed out version of that Kyo, which is pretty incredible to think about when you consider the fact that Kyo is as strong as he is. But this character is going to have that bubble shield on top of the fact that he's going to have an excellent mixed dot kit featuring both darkness and starlight, which is going to make him one of the most relevant guild raid characters right now currently available. Probably the biggest knock and the only knock against this character at this point is going to be the fact that he is extremely hard to obtain. However, he is worth the grind, because once you pick him up, you're going to find that this is one of the best characters in all of King of Fighters All-Star, not just in the yellow element pool. So in general, this was a very easy call to make. Phantom Ruler Ignas lives up to his name and is the ruler of the yellow element fighters in the King of Fighters All-Star. Well, there you have it, you guys. The top 5 yellow element fighters in all of the King of Fighters All-Star. This was a fairly easy list to make, I'm not gonna lie. There are some just ridiculously strong yellow element fighters in this game. So honestly, you guys, the yellow element is a list that's very easy to throw together, considering the fact. But we're gonna go ahead and give you guys a couple of honorable mentions. Now, keep in mind, these honorable mentions are characters that are kind of just on the outside looking in at the top 5, especially when you take a look at list such as the yellow element fighters. Of course, it's going to be very hard to crack, but there are a couple of characters here that I do want to briefly mention. So the first one that I want to talk about is actually going to be a unified banner character, and I want to go ahead and talk about Lady Zero here. Now, this isn't a character that obviously deserves to be in the top 5 by any stretch of the imagination. However, she is still a very strong character in her own right. This is going to be a character that, while she doesn't have a dot in her kit, she is still going to be a very high damage ceiling character, particularly for free-to-plays out there that are going to be focused more on characters that they can build off of unified banner tokens and so on and so forth. So if you're looking for a really strong DPS, look no further than Lady Zero. If you want more of an explanation on her, I did do a ranking based on each one of the yellow elements typings for the unified banner. You can check that out, link will be in the description, and she was definitely shown in that video. But yeah, guys, definitely one of the best overall yellow unified banner picks you could make. And then another character on here that I feel like I should throw in as an honorable mention that isn't going to be on the unified banner, but Meliodas is a very good character as well. The issue with Meliodas is that he really lacks a lot of multi-hits, so unfortunately he isn't going to be very good for the things that you might want to use him for, particularly in expert difficulty against Omega Rugal. However, at this point, when it comes to any of the guild raid difficulties, those have kind of largely become truncated, and a particular dot for guild raid is a little less valuable nowadays, considering the fact that there's plenty of options for characters that you can take in and they can get through on a one key scenario solo, much less with a team without the dot needed. So honestly, this is just going to be a character that you could use for things like PVAI, where he's really good. Otherwise, mobs, bosses, so on and so forth. He's also really good for Immortals, but in general, this is a character that I did feel like deserved an honorable mention, but didn't deserve to be in the top 5. But anyway, you guys, that's going to be today's video. I hope you all found it informative. If you did, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and let me know in the comment section down below if there's any characters that you would put in the top 5. But until the next video, you all take care. Peace.
Continue.